All right, and now that we're recording, I want to remind, well, I guess remind you, but also put it on the recording that I apologize for not having my camera on. I have a sick kid at home. It's a mess, so sorry for that. And also, like I just told you, I cannot show the questions because I don't want to just give away the answers to the final exam. So
Absolutely.
we're going to discuss the ones you missed, but not actually show them. So here we go.
Okay.
Let's see. The first one that you missed. I have to read it to myself before I say it out loud because I want to think about how I can say it without giving it away.
Right.
This one deals with, let's see, an increase in the electricity rates. Like if you're paying more. So basically, what it's asking. Okay, that was just kind of a filler. What it's asking is, what should you do if you want to use electricity more efficiently? And
Yeah.
there was a list of things. Um, and I guess some of the options we could talk about are, installing incandescent light bulbs, which are just traditional light bulbs. The one with the filaments, the ones that we probably you and I grew up on.
Yes.
Then they also listed things like CFL light bulbs, which are those the fluorescent ones, LED light bulbs. Then they also mentioned some things that really don't have anything to do with residential energy,
Correct.
like purchasing a gasoline electric hybrid car, which is great for the environment, generally speaking, but has nothing to do with your electric rates at home. Same
Correct.
thing. And they also mentioned the plug-in hybrid car. So you chose a correct answer, but not the best answer.
And after looking at it, I think the best answer would have been the. I don't want to say the correct answer aloud, but
No, it's okay. I'm fine with giving it away because I
yeah,
didn't quite, verbatim say
yeah.
what the question
But I
was. So
believe that the LED would have been the most appropriate result.
exactly, yeah, those are
Yeah.
more efficient than the CFL. But of course, CFL lights are also good. I mean, I have some I'm using right now, mostly because I'm too cheap and I'm waiting on them to burn out before I
So
replace
we don't
them.
want them to die. Yes.
Yeah. So any questions about that one?
No, not at all.
All right. So the next one you missed. Let's see. This one is about a biodiversity hotspots. In a sense, it's almost asking for the definition. Like what is a biodiversity hotspot? Um, and there's a few things that you would have to consider. And I'm trying to look at these options. For example, one of the key things for a biodiversity hotspot is that there is um, endemic species, right? So there are
Yeah.
species that you can find only in that spot. So that is definitely one of the keys that you would look for.
Yes.
Um, and another thing, because some of the wrong answers on this have this, they say endemic species, so it's on the right track, but then they say something like, you know, endemic species that are thriving or doing well or not threatened, in which
Right.
case it's not necessarily a hotspot. If they're doing well, it's not necessarily a hotspot, depending on how you argue the definition. But the point is, there is an option on there that is the best answer, and that basically says, again, there's not only are there endemic species, but there's a unusually high amount of them,
Yes.
and they are threatened. So those are the
Yeah.
basic three things that you would look at. For
Yeah.
example, the Appalachians, we do have some endemic species, and some of them are threatened, but there's not like a whole lot of endemic species. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So we meet like 2/3 of the requirements to be a hotspot.
Yeah. And I think with my answer here, I replaced the species richness with the endemic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Species. So yes, I believe B would have been a more appropriate
Yes.
answer.
And be careful not to say the
Yes.
letter.
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Actually,
Yes.
while I have you on here, one second, please. Actually, I'm not sure if this will matter, but nah, whatever. I'll take care of it later. Okay. Anyway, going back, your next one is, where are we at here? Oh, I'm sorry, did you have any questions about that one? See if
No.
you can understand. Okay.
No.
So for the next one, this one's asking about basically climate change, and not just like recent climate change, but this one looks at a bigger picture. It's looking at basically, we're talking about millions of years,
Yes.
in the past millions of years. Um, And over a long time span, according to the textbook, well, I shouldn't say it like that because that indicates that it might not be true, but it is true. Basically, if we're looking at that large of a time span, like 2 million years, it's basically fluctuated.
Yes.
So if you were to like zoom into a specific time period, you might say it's warmed or you might say it's cooled. But if
Right.
you're looking at something as large as the last 2 million years, then it's just it's fluctuated.
Fluctuated. And I think that's where I think that the amount of years that we were looking at is what led me to my answer, because I think when we looked in the textbook, when we looked at a smaller number of years, I think my answer was more appropriate.
Yeah, it all depends on the time frame you look at. And obviously, for example, if you were to look, if it said in the past 20 years, you would
Yes.
say it's warmed. Okay. So any questions about that one?
Nope, not at all.
All right. So for the next one, there's different types of environmental hazards, and this one's asking specifically about cultural environmental hazards.
Yes.
Um,
And that one I think was a miscue of my finger.
oh, I hate it when that happens.
Yes.
So basically, like, let me try to think of an example. If one of the choices, and this isn't one of them, but not exactly, but if one of the choices was air pollution from I don't know, from trains,
Right.
or from cars, that's not necessarily cultural.
Correct.
But one of the choices on here was cultural because it was more of something that was, how do I put it? It's like not necessarily something that's okay. Well, it's cigarette smoke, right? So that's not
Right.
something that's needed necessarily. It's hard
Correct.
to talk about without getting too deep into it,
Right.
and wasting your time as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
basically that's that. So any questions about that one?
Nope, not at all.
All right. Look at the next one. The next one, we're talking about a different, you looked at all these different types of ways of producing electricity, one of which was tidal power. And in this case, it didn't ask what it does, it asked what it does not. And, oh, yeah, so that could be tricky. And I think based on your answer, maybe that's what tricked you. Maybe you.
It is.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So
It
yes,
is.
this thing list, that means I don't need to even get into it. But yeah, there's a question that asks what tidal power does not, and all the choices are a bunch of things that it does do,
Yes.
and one of them is a thing that it does not do. So
Yes.
that'll help anybody watching this video to study. Like, just be familiar with all the things that tidal power does, and be careful with the question because it's going to ask what it does not do.
Yes.
All right.
Don't have grandparent brain going into
Oh, I understand. Yeah. So you do understand then? You probably already know the correct answer, and I probably don't even need to say it then, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the next one. Most efficient. This one is also about generating electricity, not from tidal power this time, but this time it's all about basically burning trash, basically.
Yes.
There's a better term for it, but again, I don't want to give away the question. So if we're talking about generating electricity from burning trash, there's a bunch of ways you can do it that's listed, and it's basically asking which one's the best one.
Yes.
That's a tough question and kind of random, honestly, because even if you don't get it and you got the wrong one, that's not a big deal in the grand scheme of the semester. But basically, the best answer is bioreactor landfills are the best way.
Yes.
So, you know what? Actually, I misspoke when I was describing the question. So it's not necessarily burning the trash, but if we're just talking about trash in general,
Yes.
there's ways to collect gas, for example,
Yes.
from landfills. So yeah, any questions about that one?
No, not at all.
All right, we're almost done here. So for the next one, this one is asking about hydropower. So basically, you kind of need to know how a hydropower dam works. Specifically, it asks it says that you're generating electricity when you release water. But then it's saying, all right, so where are you releasing the water from?
Yes.
And the answer is just simply, the dam. The dam is
Yes.
where you're releasing the water from. So
Exactly.
your choice was a good choice. That's part of the process. It just wasn't
not
where the
enough.
water is released
Yes.
from.
Yes.
Okay, then you understand that then.
I do.
All right, so the next one, the third to last one. Wait, no, that was that third to last one. Let me scroll back up here.
92, 93.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, we're talking about human-dominated ecosystems.
Yes.
And it's asking what. So there's a question. Let's just say that's asking. You need to know what you would find in a human-dominated ecosystem, and also what you would not find. So this is a bunch of stuff that you would find, and it's asking which one you would often not find, and the answer. I don't want to give it away, but your answer is actually kind of the opposite of the right answer, because you would actually find one of the few, human dominated ecosystems generally are not good for the environment, but they obviously do have advantages. And an example of a human dominated ecosystem would be a farm, where we like grow something. So obviously that would be good for us, and that would be an ecosystem's ability to grow sufficient food, because we've changed the ecosystem. Like if you go foraging for food in the Kanawha State Forest, you're not going to have as much as if you were to go foraging for food in somebody's garden in their backyard,
Yeah.
So yeah, any questions about that one?
No, not at all.
All right, last question here. We're talking about the increased flux of carbon into the atmosphere, that is, because we talked about the carbon cycle. Specifically, we're looking at the time frame, like technically the current time frame, starting from the Industrial Revolution, and saying, all right, where has most of this carbon been coming from?
I think that this was a mishit of the fingers too, because I believe it has to do with what we use for fuel.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's basically, that's exactly right.
Yes.
We're using fuels, we're burning that stuff, we're releasing carbon, and there's other things that are listed that also. Some of them are like completely wrong, like the one about phosphates. Like that has nothing to do with the carbon cycle. That's about the phosphate cycle. Fertilizers too. Also, that's mostly nitrogen and phosphorus.
Right.
The one you chose deforestation, which does have a negative impact because without the forest, we're pulling less carbon out of the atmosphere. So you are on the right track. But yeah, so that is that correct answer.
Yes.
And that is it. That's all the ones you missed. Did you have any questions?
I did not. This is I love classes that challenge me, and this definitely was a class that challenged me.
Good.
So that I enjoyed.
Was it the test, just?
No, I think topics in general. I mean, I think especially here in West Virginia, I live outside of the city. There are a lot of things that I think we would do as a family if it were easier. And I know you and I have talked about our schedules and how busy they are. And I love the idea of recycling, but I need it to come to me.
Yep. Yeah, I understand.
So there are so many things that I think that we could make much more advantageous here in West Virginia. But we have so many outlying areas that are difficult to get to, difficult for mountaineer waste and all of the trash companies and things like that to get to offer recycling and things like that. And that here in Charleston, we have Slack Street, and there are so many times that they are not taking things because the market is not available for it. So I think we have a long way to go, but it's definitely, my husband and I have, discussed a lot of things that we do right and a lot of things that we can improve upon and moving forward.
Well, that is great. Yeah. And like I said, that one of those announcements, that's in my opinion, the purpose of this class. Like with things changing from, year to year and also from location to location, like you mentioned, we're in West Virginia, things are going to be completely different than they are in, Atlanta or LA or whatever. Yeah. So it's good to know not what's good. I'm not telling you what's good and bad for the environment. Hopefully you learn now how to figure it out for yourself. Absolutely. And then decide, is it worth doing this or that thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, great. That's that. I'm going to stop recording,
Okay.
and then we can get off here, and I will apply your boost to the grade.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.